Hello, scholars. Oh, wait, I want you to see my face. Hello, scholars. So you just did a CRQ, which is the first quiz of sixth grade. And I know some of you are like, it was okay, like, feel confident. Some of you were like, some of these problems I didn't really see. I know some of these problems were pretty difficult. Just know that every day we are pushing ourselves to be better, to do better. Every day, I'm learning new things so that I can push you all to be better and do better as well. And I promise to always do better and be better as your instructor. So, with that said, shake it off, and I look forward to seeing your progress on the next one. All right, so let's get to work. First, we want to write our name and we want to circle our cohort. Today, I'm repping the Penn State squad. All right, so we're going to keep practicing division, but today's division is representing division with remainders and fractions. Because as you know, when you create equal groups, sometimes the equal groups are not whole numbers, right? Which is why we have remainders. And remainders are also fractions, which are also decimal. So in today's practice, we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at a lot of other things responding to the data from your CRQ that you took today. All right, 4,892 divided by 8. The first thing we want to do is we want to write our problem in standard algorithm, noting that the first number is the dividend and the second number is the divisor. Then we want to create a ratio table. I want us to do it all the way over here because I have some things to show you on this side. Ratio tables of groups of 8. So one group of 8 is 8. Two groups of 8 is 16. 3 is 24. 4 is 32. 5 is 40. 6 is 48. 7 is 56. 8 is 64. 9 is 72. If you're ever struggling with your eights, notice the pattern. 8, 6, 4, 2, 0, 8, 6, 4, 2, right? So literally you could just add 10 and subtract 2. 8 plus 10 is 18, minus 2 is 16. 64. 16 plus 10 is 26, minus 2 is 24. So that's how that helps me remember my eights. Don't forget that. All right, so let's go. It's this divided by this, cover up, back up, got enough? No, because 4 cannot help 8 out. Back up, got enough? Yes, 48 is large enough to split into equal groups. Give the man a seat, right? We're giving the 8 a seat, not the 48, not the 4 seat. Give the man a seat, count by 8, don't pass up 48. Go. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. Stop. A 6 pops up. 6 times 8 is 48. Hook your line, subtract, 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 subtract. 48 minus 48 is 0. Pull down one shade. Every time you pull down one shade, you count by 8. Don't pass up 9. Go. 8, 16. Oops. Back up. A 1 pops up. 1 times 8 is 8. Hook your line, subtract. subtract, subtract, subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1. After you subtract, pull down one shade. Every time you pull down one shade, you count by 8. Don't pass up 12. Go. 8, 16. Oops, again, back up. A 1 pops up. 1 times 8 is 8. Hook your line, subtract, 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 subtract. 12 minus 8 is 4. There's nothing else to pull down. So 4 is your remainder. Your remainder means you have to add 4 after you have your quotient. So how do you check that, right? You check that by multiplying your quotient times your divisor. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. Now, that's not the same, right? That's not the same. However, you have a remainder. So you have to add that remainder. 8 plus 4 is 12. Carry the 1, bring down the 2. 8 plus 1 is 9. Bring down the 8. Bring down the 4. 4, 8, 9, 2. It is the same. That's how I know my answer is correct. Right. So I know that this, so once we had our remainder, what we did was we multiplied our quotient by our divisor, and we got this number, which is not the same. However, we can add the remainder to the rest. Now, I want you to see something with a fraction. So everybody say fraction remainder. Okay. So it's the same division, right? However, your remainder is 4, right? So when you're doing that, you have to use your divisor, and you have to use your remainder. So my answer is 6, 11. Your remainder becomes your numerator, and your divisor becomes your denominator. So my answer is 6, 11, and 4/8. However, this can be simplified. Not always, but this can be simplified. What I notice about 4 and 8 is 4 can go into 4. And 4 can go into 8. So you divide by 4 over 4, and it equals 1/2. So the answer is 6, 11, and 1/2. Okay, let me do that again. You keep your quotient. You keep your quotient. Your divisor becomes your denominator. Your remainder becomes your numerator. So I'll write that down. Keep quotient divisor becomes denominator, and remainder becomes numerator. Okay? And then simplify if you can. We'll be doing more practice with this, but I wanted to introduce it to you all. Now let's look here. So on your CRQ, you did problems like this. It says select all. That means there will be more than one answer. All right. We also know the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2, or base times height times 1/2. All right. So we have to find an area of 45. So whenever we find the areas, if we get 45, we know our answer. Also, we're going to explore what answers tricked us, right? Because multiple choice or select all will have some problems that will trick you. And we're going to look at that as well. So we know here, the base is not here because it doesn't, the base is here, right? The base is not here because we have no slants, right? The base is here because it connects to its opposite vertex at a perpendicular line and a right angle. So our base is 9 and our height is 10, which is 90. However, after we multiply the base times the height, we have to divide by 2. And 90 divided by 2 equals 45. Right? So you can also just divide here. 90 is our dividend divided by 2. 2 goes into 9 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Hook your line, subtract. 1, 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Minus 10, 0. So you can also like check your answer by just dividing. So 45 units squared. We're looking for 45 square units. So this is correct. This one, our base is 15. Our height is not that slant because there's no opposite vertex. There's no opposite vertex, but here is the opposite vertex at a perpendicular line. So you multiply 5 times 13. 15 times 13. And 15 times 13 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. And 1. 5, 9, 195. And if you divide 195 divided by 2, the answer will be more than 45, right? Because if you divide 100 by 2, it'll get 50. So we can automatically know that that's not correct because 195 divided by 2 is much greater than 45. Let's look at this one. 15 times 6. The base and the height is given, so base 15 times 6, which is 15 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 1 is 6, 7, 8, 9. 90 divided by 2, we know 90 divided by 2 is 45 square units. So we know that that is correct, right? I multiplied the base times the height and then divided by 2, and I got 45. Look at this one. Okay. 9 times 5 is 45. But with the triangle, you have to multiply the base times the height, then divide by 2. So then you have to divide 45 by 2. If you divide 45 by 2, my answer will be about 22.5. I believe so, because 22 times 2 is 44, and then 0.5 on both sides gives that extra point. So it's 22.5 square units. This was a trick. Do you see how this was a trick? Right? So don't get tricked. Follow what you know. So my correct answers are this one and this one. This is also incorrect. All right. So I felt like this was a little challenging as well because it says it's not asking for the coordinate planes. It's asking you to analyze what's going on in the problem. So on the X value, we have chapters, right? So you want to read what's happening. Chapter test scores. So you know you got to have chapters and you got to have scores. The Y value is the scores. The X values are the chapters. So basically chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then scores all the way up to 100. So let's just analyze it. In chapter 1, since the dot is here, the score was 80. In chapter 2, the score was between 70 and 80, which is 75. In chapter 3, the score was 90. Well, that's a high chapter, right? We notice that that's a high, so we probably want to say like high score, right? Chapter 4, 60. Oh, that's a low score. Chapter 5, 70. Okay, not bad. Chapter 6, 80. It's not in the middle, so it's about 82. You see that? And chapter 7, a 70. Pretty average. So from this, you notice that this person received 2 70s, had a high score of 90, and had a low score of 60. So when you receive any graphs like this, you want to just analyze what's happening. That's going to help you answer. So it says, on which chapter test did she score the highest on? So you're looking for the highest score. So the highest score is a 90. And we know in chapter 1, it was an 80. In chapter 2, 75. In chapter 3 was the highest score. So your answer would be chapter 3. On which chapter test did she score the lowest on? Well, we know 60 was the lowest score. And at 60, the score was chapter 4. So chapter 4 was the lowest score. Because there are no scores lower than 60. What score did she receive on chapter test 6? So chapter test 5, a 70. Chapter test 6 was about, this is half, so it's between like maybe an 82. What chapter test did she receive a 50% on? So go to 50%. Do you see any dots? Oh, interesting. She didn't receive a score of 50%. All right. So first, analyze graph. Like, what is the X? What is the Y? The X was talking about the chapters. The Y's were talking about the percentages. Step 2, evaluate and answer. So we evaluated the question and we went to the graph and we answered it. Okay, let's look here. Eventually, we're going to go from fluency to equivalent fractions. So I'm going to set my timer. I'm going to set my timer for, I'm going to do it for 3 minutes. And I'm going to try to do it, see what I could do. So I know to get from 1 to 2, it's a small number to a big number, so I have to multiply by 2 on both sides. So I know 2 times 2 is 4. To get from 1 to 5, I multiply by 5 on both sides. 2 times 5 is 10. To get from 2 to 20, I multiply by 10 on both sides. And 1 times 10 is 10. To get from 2 to 8, pause. Do you see how I'm going? Right? I don't know what I'm multiplying for the unknown, so I have to use what I know. To get from 2 to 8, I multiply times 4 on both sides, and 1 times 4 is 4. To get from 1 to 3, it's times 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. To get from 1 to 4, it's times 4 on both sides, and 3 times 4 is 12. To get from 3 to 15, it's times 5 on both sides. 1 times 5 is 5. To get from 3 to 6 is times 2 on both sides. And 1 times 2 is 2. I got 1 minute and 45 seconds left. Am I going to pass it? To get from 1 to 4 is multiplied by 4 on both sides. And 4 times 4 is 16. To get from 1 to 2 is times 2 on both sides. 4 times 2 is 8. To get from 4 to 12, you multiply times 3 on both sides. And 1 times 3 is 3. To get from 4 to 20, you multiply by 5 on both sides. And 1 times 5 is 5. To get from 1 to 5, you multiply by 5 on both sides. And 5 times 5 is 25. To get from 1 to 3, you multiply by 3 on both sides. And 5 times 3 is 15. To get from 5 to 20, you multiply by 4 on both sides. And 1 times 4 is 4. To get from 5 to 25, you multiply by 5 on both sides. And 1 times 5 is 5. Oh, I've finished in 55 seconds. So I will write that. Okay. Remember, you need the help of a complete numerator or complete denominator. So you have to find complete numerator side or complete denominator side. For here, I had to find the complete numerator side. For here, numerator side. For here, I had to find the complete denominator side. And how did I scale from 2 to 20? And you got to ask, how do I multiply or divide from side 1 to side 2? That was fun. And that's all I have for you today. Um, remember, pause and rewind if you need to. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. And I know we're going to do better on the next exam. Love you all. Bye bye.